Can you be transgender without dysphoria? That's what we're talking about in today's video. So hello everyone, my name is Autumn Asphodel and I'm a coach to help you live your best life and be your true self. And we're talking about being transgender, more specifically transsexual, and if you can actually be that without gender dysphoria. So enjoy the video. Dysphoria is a feeling that transgender people have when they are not happy with their body, mannerisms, or way of life. More specifically, the parts of their body, mannerisms, and lifestyle that are specifically related to their birth sex. An example is someone who was born a male but identifies as female may feel dysphoria set in when they look at parts of their body that they deem as masculine, or wearing male clothing, or talking and acting like a male, or even walking through the men's section of a clothing store. All these things are the hallmark of what makes someone transgender. However, the question is asked, can you be transgender without dysphoria? You will hear from some individuals that they identify as the opposite sex yet have no dysphoria, which is the main symptom of being transgender. Unfortunately, it's not possible to be transgender, more specifically transsexual, without having gender dysphoria. Someone who is transgender, more specifically transsexual, is essentially someone who was born in the wrong body, so to speak. Someone who was born a male and transitions to a female, or someone who is born a female who transitions to a male. Gender dysphoria is a symptom of being a transgender person, which essentially means that there is an inconsistency with your physical body and your mental state, what you truly believe, that you have dysphoria about your physical body and the things that make you masculine or feminine physically, because they're not incongruent with your mind. It could also extend to mannerisms, the way that you look, the way that you act, the way that you behave, even going into certain places that are more masculine or wearing masculine clothing can bring about dysphoria. It depends on the individual, but dysphoria is one of the key things that needs to be in place for someone to be transgender. The whole premise of being transgender is to ultimately transition in some capacity to alleviate gender dysphoria. While there may be other ways to alleviate dysphoria, transitioning appears to be the most effective. While dysphoria can still exist, it's lessened by a social transition, such as changing name, wearing different clothing, and going out into the world as the ideal self. In addition to hormone replacement therapy, and even surgery. Some people have varying levels of dysphoria, but dysphoria to some degree is always present with someone who is transgender. Being transgender isn't a fad, nor is it a trend. Rather, it's a very small group of people who struggle with their identity, often since childhood. The reason dysphoria creeps in is because the person doesn't feel right as the sex they were born, and instead feel like the opposite sex. If the physical body is male but the mind is female, this incongruity is what causes dysphoria. Transitioning is what the remedy is for gender dysphoria. Without dysphoria, the person is not transgender. Some people can manage their dysphoria via other means or transitioning by a minimal amount, but the fact still remains that dysphoria has to be present for the individual to be transgender. What they do about the dysphoria, on the other hand, is unrelated to them being transgender. For instance, if a person decides to not transition for whatever reason, whether it be social acceptability, health concerns, or even fear, and they still experience dysphoria, then they are a transgender who chose or is unable to transition. However, those that claim to be transgender who may transition but do not experience dysphoria are not transgender. They may fall into a related group within the transgender spectrum, since transsexual is the technical term for someone who is born in the wrong body, so to speak, but they are not transsexual. In order to be transgender, more specifically transsexual, one must experience gender dysphoria, which impacts their life to some degree. The amount of dysphoria someone experiences will depend on the individual, as does what they intend to do about it, transition or not, and how far they are willing to go. Regardless, we should each respect one another and learn from our differences, since we are all unique. Let me know how this works for you. Have a great day. So while there may be some people who say that you can be transgender without dysphoria, it simply is not true or not possible to be transgender without dysphoria, because the whole symptom, the whole premise of being transgender is that you were born in the wrong body, so to speak, and you have to transition in order to alleviate the dysphoria. If you don't have dysphoria, then there is really no need to transition. Thus, you are not transgender. So in order to be transgender, you have to have dysphoria, but whatever you do beyond that point, wherever you decide to do when it comes to transitioning, that is entirely up to you and depends on how severe your dysphoria is. Some people don't want to transition. Other people go all the way through social transition, wearing clothing, hormones, surgery, and even then, they may still have dysphoria. So it really does all depend on the individual, but you need to have dysphoria in order to be a transgender person. Be sure to check out the amazing merchandise over at Asphodel Shop for some inspiring designs. I'm sure you'll find them amazing. Also, become a member of $5 up and above to get early access to new content before anyone else has public access to it. And I want to thank you all so very much for tuning into this video. Let me know your thoughts on this topic, and I'll see you all again later. Bye-bye.